And welcome back to another episode of Dogs on the Couch, where everybody's allowed to have an opinion. It does not matter if you played the game you are watching. So you're allowed to have an opinion as well. Please like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, subscribe. It's free. It does not cost you a dime. Not only that, it helps grow the channel as well as push videos like this into the algorithm so that like-minded people may have a chance to view them as well. We set our first goal here at Dogs on the Couch. We would like to reach 100 subscribers, and you can help us out personally by just simply hitting that subscription button and becoming family, joining the conversation. I greatly appreciate it. Now, with that out of the way, again, I try to stay away from this stuff. Hopefully, I can get away from it pretty soon. It's just it's the main thing that's out here in sports right now. Ennis Canton, officially banned from the Chicago Sky Arena. There was a statement given by the owner in which I would basically like to address. Now, similar to what I stated in the previous video, I'm all for inclusivity. I'm not for the bullying. I don't stand for that. I think that is childish. Also, there was yet another green object thrown onto a court. I believe it was the Washington Mystics game. I think it was the Mystics versus the Storm. It was another green object thrown onto the court. Again, I think that everybody who does that is an idiot. The one difference that I have with that is, some people seem to be labeling it a specific, the only people that are doing this are, cis men, straight men are the only ones that are doing this or whatever, you know what I mean? When I'm just like, how could you tell what a person's orientation is just by looking at them? And then not only that, how can you use that individual or those specific sets of individuals and make it seem like all straight men have the same ideology as those idiots that are throwing objects onto the field or onto the court? When, respectfully, me being the man that I am, if I was at a game and I saw that, I'm finna have a problem with the person that did that. What do you think? I'm gonna stand up for him? Like, oh, well, he's another straight male. Let me stand up for him. And like, no, that's idiotic behavior. And it should never be accepted. The issue with that, real quick, I'm gonna move off of that. The issue with that is when Miss Natasha Cloud came out and wanted to give all these, slurs and try to pin things on demographics of people and turn, just basically instead of just calling idiots, she had to try to add all of this other stuff in it, race and ethnicity and, gender and, orientation, adding all of that into it when that doesn't need to be added. It's just idiots are idiots, and idiots come in all shapes, forms, and sizes. Because again, when there's one or two individuals from other, communities that may do something that's questionable, like, for example, I think there's Sydney Starr is going through some things right now. One of the notable transgender women or whatever over the past few years, you know what I mean, told some lies and ended the rapper Chingy's career and all of that stuff. She's under investigation or, in criminal courts at the moment, dealing with some stuff that she did with a minor, with a young man. We don't turn and take Sydney Starr and say, oh yeah, see, all of you are like that. No, that's just one idiot being an idiot. Like, idiots come in all shapes, forms, sizes, colors, orientations. An idiot is just an idiot. There's no, an idiot is an idiot. And that's just what they should be called out as just being an idiot. It shouldn't have anything to do with their race and religion and all this other stuff that don't got nothing to do with the fact that you're just an idiot. But the problem that she done made, that she don't know that she made, for the rest of the idiots that are out here in the world, the idiots and the trolls, the fact that you let them know that it bothered you that bad, the fact that they understand, oh, I control you and get under your skin and possibly get some notoriety or something behind this. I don't think that it's going to stop anytime soon. In fact, I think it will continue to go on simply because, you weren't able to deal with the trolling. And unfortunately, like I said in my last video, that's a part. Trolling is not illegal. Not only that, when you go to a game, the opposing fans are supposed to heckle you. That's 100% a part of professional sports. And if you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be a professional athlete. Now, there clearly are lines that you shouldn't cross. The same way we shouldn't be saying slurs into the crowd shouldn't be yelling slurs to the players. There's a way that you can heckle. You could say, you suck, you're trash, you're gonna miss. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of that is fair game. You're allowed to do that. Now, when you get to calling people names or talking about their orientation, or calling them B words or any of that type of stuff, okay, maybe now that's when we crossing the line and we doing too much. And then, that's not heckling. You just being disrespectful at that point. It's one thing to heckle or to cheer for, your team or whatever, what have you. But then when you just start being disrespectful, that's no longer in the spirit of the game. Okay. So I just want that to be clear. But again, Natasha Cloud, when you keep showing that you're so easily triggered and it sends you into this violent rage, that's the one consistent that seems to keep coming from, the people who are supporting, everything against Enes Kanter. It just seems to be this anger, this rage. They're always yelling and cussing and just going over the top, like exuding these violent tendencies, having these violent natures and being so angry. And I've yet to see any of the people, you know what I'm saying, from the other side, like Enes Kanter haven't been getting angry and getting violent and aggressive. He simply stood up, held his hands out, and y'all said he was being violent and aggressive. Like, imagine that. You're a threat just because he stood up and had his hands like this. Like, what did I do? That's a threat. But somebody walking towards you aggressively, yelling, screaming, pointing, and screaming obscenities and cuss words at you, oh no, that's not a threat. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. That's okay to do. You go ahead. You go get them. What? I don't understand. It's like, I grew up in an age where, respect is earned and not just given. You know what I mean? So if you want somebody to, respect you, you kind of got to respect them. And like, it goes both ways. And you can't just be spinning the narrative how you want to spin it. So now to speak about the actual ban or whatever. And for me, it was the comments. I believe the guy's name is, maybe it's Michael Altman. Don't quote me on that one. I might be wrong. I'll be honest. When I heard what he was saying, I really didn't care to know his name or anything like that. But let's just listen to some of his explanations as to why Enes Kanter was banned from the Chicago Sky's ring. Let's listen by his words or whatever.
Was behind his actions. I don't know what was in his head. Okay? Neither do you. And if he tells you what's in his head based on other things he's told you got to know that now that he is completely unreliable. And we'll talk about that later, some of the lies that he's shared with you. We don't know what his intent was. Security doesn't know. The job is to get there and to stop him. They did. And we're grateful for that. And who needed to be ejected for making the decision to become a threat, a potential threat.
Okay, but
simple as that.
The potential threat analysis was based on the fact that the step he took toward the court. That's where the threat is drawn.
I think it was a combination of him standing up in his chair, raising his arms, pointing at a player, taking a step towards the court. I mean, again, you talk to people in security. They look at these things. Pick apart teeny little things. They look at the entirety of the circumstances and what's going on, what's happening, and again, I probably shouldn't even be speaking for them, but that's what they're looking at.
Was security made aware that he was going to be at the game before the game?
Absolutely.
The players were not made aware.
Correct. You probably heard me say yesterday that was something I regret not doing, but yes, that is accurate.
So, a couple things. Number one, so the players had to be notified that there was a specific fan that was going to be attending the game. That's wild to me. Did they notify LeBron James that Dylan Brooks was going to be attending that basketball game and trolling him from courtside? Or did LeBron probably just not care whether Dylan Brooks is going to be there or not? Because Dylan Brooks was already out of the playoffs at that point. And if anything, while he's trying to troll LeBron, if anything, he probably turned LeBron up and made LeBron play even harder so that LeBron understands how to win the troll battle. Let me not get upset and start going over here walking towards Dylan Brooks and yelling at him and pointing at him. Why are you here trolling me? Instead, Brian probably just got the ball and got to dunking on people. And then after he dunk on somebody, he look over there at Dylan Brooks. Yeah, you thought you was doing something, huh? Yeah, watch, I'm about to dunk on somebody else for you, bum. You lame. That's why you sitting over there now watching me on the court. Because you trash. That's probably what LeBron did. But again, instead of knowing how to handle these kinds of circumstances, it seems like in the WNBA, like we don't want to handle these circumstances. We just want to punish people. Because if you hear what Buddy said, he said that the guy made himself a threat when he stood up, raised his arms, pointed at a player, and took a step forward. Respectfully, I see that happen in almost every professional game, period, especially basketball games. They're always pointing at a player, like trying to get their attention. You trash, you suck, you stink. And they always stand up when they do it too, so that they could be seen and that they could be heard. They always do it. They take steps forward. They do. And it's completely fine as long as they do not cross over into the court of play. We watch Spike Lee do it all the time. Maybe Jack Nicklaus or some other people that be in Celebrity Road for the, at the Lakers games and different things of that nature. Not to mention countless other teams and countless other arenas where this exact thing has taken place. If you ask me, the stuff that the owner described are pretty much the exact things that you would expect a fan to do, especially one that's paid the money to be sitting courtside for that courtside experience, and that is a part of it. You get closer to the players. You have potential to have interaction with the players. That's why the seats cost more than the other ones, because it provides you an opportunity that you don't necessarily get sitting way up there in the nosebleed. You sitting way up there in the nosebleed, you screaming down there and pointing, they can't hear you. But if you shell out that extra money and now you sitting courtside, now you can tell LeBron right to his face. You can look right at LeBron, be like, you trash. And then when LeBron look over, you get the point right at, yeah, you. And I get to stand up to him and be like, yeah, you, Brian, you trash. The point is, Brian know how to keep his emotions in check and not spaz out and start walking over towards the fan who calling him trash and threatening like he finna beat the fan up just because the fan calling him trash, or because the fan cheered for Dylan Brooks when Dylan Brooks shot a 3 in LeBron's face, and so the fan got real hyped and started pointing at LeBron. That happens all the time. As a professional athlete, keyword professional, you're expected to be professional as a professional athlete. Meaning you get paid to do this. There's a certain level of conduct that you should be able to exude, especially while you're at work. Okay? You're a professional athlete. You mean to tell me you haven't figured out how to deal with this yet? You haven't figured out how to, toughen your skin up a little bit? Because for you to be so tough, like why is it so easy for your feelings to get hurt? If you so tough that you approach that at probably 5'9", if that, you willing to start approaching this 6'10", 270-pound man, you start approaching him like you about to swing on him. What are we doing? Like, what is this? So by what Buddy's saying, the owner, I'm pretty sure that half the fans should be banned from these WNBA games. Half of the fans should be banned. They shouldn't be allowed to attend because you can't stand up, you can't raise your arms up in the air, you can't point at a player, and you can't take a step that would be perceived as taking a step towards the court. Because the owner, he can't even confirm if Enes Kanter actually was on the court or not. It's just, he took what is perceived as a step forward. Whoop-de-doo. Now, let's listen to his explanation when they put in his face, well, what about Natasha Cloud? Let's listen to what he got to say here.
Tell you what triggered him standing up. I don't know that for sure. You can ask him. I'm sure he will. But it doesn't matter why he stood up. It doesn't matter why he started pointing and waving at her. It doesn't matter why he stepped towards the court. All that matters is he did.
Why does that not matter? Why? Why does that not matter? That's like saying, because he's going to use this analogy later. That's like saying, well, one person shot another person. It doesn't matter why they did it. Well, if that's the case, then why is there a self-defense law in certain places? The reason that there's a self-defense law is because, well, that part matters. If the other person had a gun and was trying to shoot them, and then they ended up shooting them first, well then, or maybe the other person shot at them, missed, and then this person retaliated, out of self-defense, shot back and didn't miss. Well, then yes, we need the context. It does matter why they shot. Like, it does matter. So he's conveniently trying to skip over, oh, well, what doesn't matter what made him stand up. Basically, it doesn't matter that Natasha Cloud was aggressively, violently walking towards, took off going the opposite direction. She was supposed to be going this way and then made an about face and walked almost like half the length of the court back towards him, aggressively, yelling, screaming, violently, pointing, screaming, yelling obscenities. What are we doing? So the man standing up with his arms out like this is a threat. But somebody actively walking towards you first, yelling, screaming obscenities and pointing at you, oh, that's not a threat. That's not perceived as a threat. I don't understand. Let's let him talk a little bit more.
Those things, and he became a threat.
Well, my question is now is why isn't Natasha Cloud being disciplined for this? Because if the threat didn't, if the supposed threat didn't come into play until after she instigated, then is she not responsible for any part of it?
Her role in this has nothing to do with our decision and how we handle. So I'm not here to talk to you about that. It's just it's not relevant to his actions.
But why isn't it relevant to what we're talking about? Why isn't she being disciplined?
Whether she is or isn't is not something I'm here to talk about.
Whether it is or it isn't, that's not something I'm here to talk about. Why not? It's a part of what happened in the situation. So you only want to talk about the specific part that you want to talk about. But everything else that happened in the situation, oh, I'm not here to talk about that. Well, then why talk about the situation at all then if you're not going to talk about it in its entirety? Why even talk about it at all? Why bring up any of it if you're not going to bring it all up in its entirety and address everything in its entirety? Oh, I know why. Because you haven't found out the proper verbiage to be able to deflect yet. So instead, you just completely dismiss it, disregard it. Well, we're not here to talk about that. Well, why aren't you? because the internet being the internet had discovered, of course, the WNBA players code of conduct policy, and per you guys' code of conduct policy, she violated it in more ways than one. Yeah, in more ways than one. She wasn't supposed to be screaming any obscenities at any of the fans. She wasn't supposed to be aggressively walking towards any of the fans, anything of that nature. She did all of the above. And that's per y'all rules. The same way that you getting mad at Enes Kanter for, you calling this publicity stunt and all this other stuff. It's like, okay, well, if you just clarify your rules, then there would be no room for people to make a publicity stunt. If you would just address this stuff that you keep going out your way to not address, it's not doing anything but making the situation even worse. You could stop it all and just get back to basketball if you would just address the stuff that y'all seemingly don't want to address. And it's kind of like we know why. It seems to be that just because there's a particular, set or group or whatever, that may have a large part to do with the WNBA, you don't want to tick them off. But, in the same breath, by you holding that stance, you giving people like Enes Kanter or Royce White or whoever a leg to stand on. So, like, they can troll you if they were like, trolling is not illegal. We all at some point get trolled. Trolling is not illegal. So the fact that you leaving the door open to be trolled, to think that in 2026 where trolling is like the thing, that's like the number one thing, especially if you want to get some attention or some clout, that's the number one thing. And instead of you shutting it down so you could just get back to basketball, close this door of trolling. And then that way, if they want to troll, they got to find something else to do. But instead of just closing that door down, or you not only is you leaving it open, like it's wide open, you keep opening it up even further. The more you like try to separate yourself from it, the further you try to move, the wider that door is opening up. For you to have the nerve to come out and say that Kanter was the threat, he made himself a threat. When I said on the previous episode talking about this, well, if he was such a threat, why did Natasha Cloud feel so comfortable walking clear across the court towards the threat, angrily and aggressively? Is that what people do when they see something that's a threat? He even used the analogy because they was like, well, why wasn't he giving a warning? Because that's also in the WNBA code of conduct for the for the fans. Why wasn't he giving a warning? Then he says, well, I'm going to use an extreme example, but you shoot a gun at someone or you shoot a gun in an auditorium or something like that. You don't get a warning. You just go. Well, first of all, why did you use an extreme example? And that was your own verbiage. You used an extreme example. Why did you have to do that? Oh, we know why. Because there was no logical comparison. So you had to go to the extreme. You had to. You compared a man standing up. Listen, that's how they view men, is what it seems like. If you a man and you stand up and you taller and you bigger and you just stand up and hold your arms up like this, and God forbid you take what could be perceived as a step forward. It doesn't matter if they came at you. They could have a gun in their hands. They could be trying to harm you. They could have a knife. They could be trying to stab you. By God, you better not stand up and put your arms up like this. You better not do that because you're a threat. Well, if he's such a threat, then how did you feel so comfortable walking towards him? They lucky that it wasn't, that Enes didn't really, really outsmart him, because if Enes was really, really using his brain, if he was really, really, really trying to outsmart them, what Enes would have done was this. When Natasha Cloud was coming at him aggressively and angrily and pointing and yelling obscenities, what he should have did, instead of standing up and doing this, or taking a step forward, whether he did or did, instead of doing this, what he should have did was he should have did this. He should have stayed in his seat and he should have did this. He should have been like, oh my God, oh, please, somebody get her. Oh, I'm so scared. Oh my God. Oh, she's trying to attack a trans woman. Oh, my Lord. Oh. If he was smart, that's what he would have done. If he really wanted to get under their skin, that's what he would have done. Because at that point, you can't use just optics of him being a tall man. You can't just use the optics and say, oh, he was a threat. That's what he should have did. He should have, the instant she walked over all aggressively, he should have balled up. He should have balled up and start crying. That's what he should have did. I would have just balled up and I would have just started crying. I would have just been like, oh my God. Oh, I'm so hurt. Oh, I felt like she was going to hit me. Oh my Lord. Like I would have. Then how can you say that he's the threat at that particular junction? How would he then be the perceived threat? There, at that point, there would be only one aggressor. That's it. Period. Point blank. When we talk about the court of law, when we just outside living our everyday lives, man, and they do stuff, you know, like when they dealing with DV or different stuff like that, they always determine who was the aggressor. You know what I mean? And like in real life, in situations like this, she would clearly be deemed as the aggressor. Like it wouldn't be a discussion at all. But somehow when we get inside a WNBA arena, like I said before, it just seems like if that means if you're going to come to a WNBA game, you got to come and you got to abide by what we want you to do. Forget if you within the rules of what is being said. We don't care about the rules. We just want you to do what we want you to do. So you got to cheer for everybody. You can't have a favorite player. You can't cheer for a player that's going to make another player mad. You can't wear a shirt that has a definition on it. You can't wear a shirt that's got XX or XY on it to support your company or whatever. But the players are allowed to aggressively walk towards you, curse at you, throw slurs at you, and do anything that they want to do to you. And you can't even stand up and just be like, hey, what did I do? You can't even do that. Like, I don't understand how, like, what world is this what type of basketball is this? This is why I call it the anything but basketball league, the ABBL, the anything but basketball league, because that just seems to be the main purpose of the WNBA, to push narratives and provide a political platform. That's what seems to be the only reason for having the WNBA. Because again, if we even break it down to the simplest science, man, if you got so much, you know, it's so much about, it's the men. But in the same breath, like you want to invite biologically born men into your sport. So are men the problem or aren't they? And then not only that, if you're saying that, you know, not all biologically born men are men, well then at that point you're proving Enes Kanter's point, which is I can be born biologically a man and you still have to refer to me as a woman as long as I say I identify as one. At some point we gotta address this, right? Because if they don't let up, and this would be the one problem that I would have in closing, I'm gonna say this would be the one problem that I would have with Enes Kanter or Royce White or any of them. If they do all this and then one day just pull up and be like, oh, okay, forget about it. Now I got a problem with it because like you did all this for nothing. Now I will think it's a publicity stunt. You just doing it for clicks. You never really had a real point. You never meant to stand on business. You just was looking to create a circus. But if they really keep pressing this issue, it's not like I don't think the guy, like it's just gonna go away. Well, I'm not here to talk about that. And it's just gonna go away. Like you just say, I'm just here so I won't get fined. Like that is just gonna go away. I don't think it's gonna go away. Like if they don't just pull, I don't think it's gonna go away. And not only that, I think it's gonna end up getting worse. We shall see how things go going forward. I hope at some point, man, they can just get back to basketball. just doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. Dogs on the Couch, signing off.